Okay, we're gonna get you started on your first base map with QGIS. It doesn't matter if you're a farmer, a land planner, a landscaper, a landscape designer, an ecologist. We'll get you going on what you need to do in order to create your first base map. QGIS is not wildly complicated. It does seem very, very complicated when you start out, but after a little bit, you'll figure out the basics, and that's what I'm hoping to show you in this first tutorial, the very first basics that you'll need to know. So first of all, obviously you have to go to QGIS.org and download the program. And then you're going to open it up and be at this start screen. And we're going to just start a project right now by going to over here, new project, open that up. The first thing you have to understand is this is your canvas, but your canvas is the planet. This is the world. QGIS operates and GIS programs operate in spatial and geospatial realm, where this isn't just a blank canvas like in Photoshop or Illustrator. This is the planet. And you're going to need to understand a little bit about CRS down here on the right. CRS, coordinate reference systems, are very, very important, but the main thing you want to know is, or understand, is that you're probably going to be using these two CRSs for the majority of the work that you do if you're not getting into the GIS aspect of this, and what you're really trying to do is create your base maps. So 3857 is the CRS that is used by Google Maps and Google Earth, etc. And 4326 is the CRS that is the default for each project. It's the default CRS that most people use, and we're going to use 3857 in this project. So go ahead and do that. And so first thing that a person wants to do is they're going to want to have some kind of base map reference. So we are going to go to plugins, manage and install plugins. And we're going to search for Quick Map Services, which is an extremely helpful plugin that will help you get going right away. So here it is. All you do is you press install. It installs. We're going to also need a georeferencer plugin that what was it called? Geocoding. We're going to need that one too at some point. Maybe not in this tutorial, but that is going to help you find a place on the planet that you need to find. So you're going to close that up. Now we have Quick Map Services, Quick Map Services search, and also the geocoding. So let's grab a quick base map. They have a few here. OpenStreetMap is the most useful. There was other options you could see. OpenStreetMap standard is what I used. You can use cycle map, landscape, outdoors, other things. You can also search over here for other types of map. For instance, this one will probably be used quite a bit. You can double click it, it'll add it. Over here you can see that these are layers just like in Photoshop. You're going to take down your OpenStreetMap layer below this Esri satellite layer. So you can choose which one you want to look at, but we can zoom in to the US here. You can zoom in and see the landscape. So let's search for a certain place in case you're starting off at a certain area that you need to search for instance, your town or close by town to the place that you're working with, the property that you're working with. And you're going to want ahead and go and hit this geocoding. And you're going to, let's say Madison, Wisconsin. Let's go there. So then one thing you can do is, there it is. QGIS created a point for us. You can go over here, right click on this and zoom to layer. That didn't work for some reason, but Usually you can zoom to your layer. It looks like it centers it on the layer here. Yeah, anyway. So get into your layer. Here we are in Madison. Beautiful city. You can see where the orthophotomosaics overlap here for whatever aerial imagery they used. Let's go and find us a farm here. Let's pretend that this farm is a farm that we're managing or we are designing for. This farm here, let's say there's one parcel here and one parcel here, right? And here. Let's just do this whole thing right about here. So what we want to first do is create our polygon. This will help us in Google Earth, as well as just creating a lot of data points for us to use. So in QGIS, we're using two types of data, or there's also a third, there's mesh data, but the two main types of data that we're going to be using is vector data and raster data. So raster data is your Photoshop program that's pixels, and vector data is your Illustrator program. It is points, more or less. So that is something to keep in mind. A GIS program is essentially the combination of those two things with the addition of geospatial components, and that's why it is such a powerful program. So let's create an outline of the property, of a fictional property. Let's say we could not find the data online for this property and we needed to create it from scratch. One thing we could do is, if we had a GPS that was very accurate, an RTK setup, we could take points at each of the corners of the property and create our outline of our property, and then use that to create this boundary layer. But we aren't going to do that today. We're going to simply create it as if we know exactly where it is. So we're going to start with, there's a few ways we can create a polygon. There's a few file types that we can create a polygon within. I think today we're going to use a temporary scratch layer, but in general you will probably use a shapefile layer, a KML file. I will generally use a geo package, and you can also use a spatial light or create a virtual layer. We're going to go ahead and use a temporary scratch layer. So you're going to name it what you want. Let's call it Tom's Farm. I have no idea who lives here, but we'll call it Tom's Farm, and then we're going to choose, usually we're choosing point, line, or polygon, and sometimes no geometry for just table information. So we're going to go ahead and choose polygon. We're going to use the same. In general, you're always going to want to use the same CRS for every layer in your project so that everything interacts correctly together. If you're bringing in other data from other sources, it will have its own CRS. You're going to have to reproject that into the CRS of your project, or vice versa. Create your project around that CRS. But we're going to go ahead and use 3857 right now. We're going to add a field, an attribute field. We're going to call it area. That's going to be a decimal number. You can choose a text, whole number, decimal number, and these other types of data. But a decimal number with two decimal points. I'm going to add that to the field list. That will be just added to our temporary scratch layer here, and then we can update that as needed. So all right, so then we created this layer over here. You can see Tom's layer. We don't need this geocoding result anymore. Let's remove that. And in GIS programs, you remove layers. You don't necessarily delete them. You remove them from the layers, and then we'll keep that. We don't really need the OSM layer anymore, so we're going to remove that layer. All right, so we got Tom's Farm. It is a temporary layer, so if we did close it down, close down the project, it would go away, it would disappear. But also the project isn't saved yet either. You want to go ahead and save the project, save as project, and find a new folder that you create in the folders area that you want this project to be in, and you're going to add all your data into that folder. Everything will go into that folder, and you can also add more folders to that folder that have more data and different types of data, etc., etc. It's up to you to organize your files in the way that you want to. But we're not going to do that now because this is just a temporary, this is just a tutorial. I'm not really creating anything real here. So let's create this polygon. So you go to over here, toggle edit. So this is the layer editing icons. So you're going to turn it off, turn it on. And then what we're going to do is we can just simply hit add polygon feature and then hit our points. And this is where if you did have ground control points or something that you have available to see where that is, and you have a GPS point on there, you can go to that. But we're just going to freehand it. We're going to create a point there. I'm left clicking on each corner of the property. Let's go all the way over here. Let's pretend this is the whole property here. And we're just going to go all the way back over to here. Right click, it comes up and it asks for the area. We don't have that right now, so we'll just press OK. You created the polygon. So this is the polygon. It's not saved though. Remember that when you create these things and you don't go back, hit toggle and save, it's not saved. If something crashed, this would not exist. You would bring this up, it would be an empty layer that would not have anything in it anymore. So you need to save this data or it won't be saved. But then you toggle back on, and then we don't really want this style whatsoever. So what we're going to do is open up the layer properties. And this is a powerful area where you are going to be styling your entire project for each layer. Let's start with the symbology, simple fill. Let's go ahead. If you click on the actual color, you're going to get this type of dialog, which is useful for very focused on color. But if you click on this downward button, then you are going to get a slightly different and more succinct dialog. And then you can hit transparent fill, very quick, stroke color, apply. You have your outline. We can't really see it because it's too small. So we can do that. You can increase the stroke width, and you can, I personally don't like beveling, so go to a miter and you apply that, and you have a very nice outline to your farm. And you can see right away that we're coming along really quickly and your base map is coming into fruition. But let's say we want that to be only, we can, a meter. So we can do a meter at scale, and that shows very, very small. You can't really see that. So let's go ahead and do that. 4 meters, 10 meters is about 30 feet. Apply that. Looks good. So one thing I've noticed is over here, obviously this area is incorrect. So what we want to do is, we are in edit mode. We want to go to the Vertex Tool. The Vertex Tool helps us edit all these vertexes. Here's one. It also shows the area, like where the vertex is. If I click on this vertex, I can move it. Or if I right click on it, I can undo that. If I left click and bring down this box, then I select the vertex as well, but I can't move it in the same way. But if I right click on that, I can get the coordinates for that point, that vertex. So anyway, what I want to do though is add. You can click on these pluses to add vertex. vertices, or you can just double click anywhere. Double click anywhere. And what you want to do with the vertex though is put it at the beginning. Another one here. The beginning and end of the area where you want to like bump out or bump in. So then you can take this, bring it up here, and you can work on that a little bit. Obviously you can see now 30 feet or 10 meters is very thick when you get closer to the property, right? So what we want to do is change that. That's too thick for us for usefulness. And we're going to change that to just about 6 feet. Apply. So that helps us out, thins it up, and we need to go ahead and bring those to where we think the property border is. Obviously, this is all just conjecture. Property border, in general, you're going to be finding these parcel lines in a county or a state open data area on the internet, or you're going to be trying to find them through the GIS coordinator of your county or something like that. But if we had to create the outline of a parcel, this is how we would do that. We can also create more parcels. For instance, you can go up here back to add polygon and start creating our buildings as well. You can do that. Right click. We don't know the area right now. So that is one way to start getting your the borders of whatever objects you are trying to delineate going on. So one thing that's nice about this is now we created that area attribute field, and so we're going to open up, here's open attribute table, or we can go to layers and open attribute table, F6, and here is the area attribute table, area column, and each of these is a feature, 1, 2, feature ID. And so this first one, I believe, is the first outline, and the second one should be the little building outline, right? So what we want to do though is we want to see what the area is. So an area, well, we're going to use an expression, area, and that will give us the area when you click update all. So what's obvious right from the start is our area is set up to be what looks like to be square feet, and we don't want that. So we'll go to project properties, and here is where we find, in general, where we find the measurements that we're using. So we don't want to, we have distance measures, we want feet. Area measurement, we want acres. And you can see there's plenty of other options here, but that's the main thing you're going to want to change. You apply that, and we go back to, and by the way, if you have to have this selected. If you're selected this and you hit the attribute table, then you'll open up that attribute table. If you select this or another layer and open up attribute table, you'll open up that attribute table. But with a, I believe this is XYZ tile, there is no attribute table for that whatsoever, and attribute tables are on vector layers. So we open that up, and we can see nothing's changed because we need to update all, and we need to actually update that and then update all, and then what we get is the acreages, right? So then we can save that, save it, and shut it down. All right, so one thing you can do too is right click on your layer, zoom to layer, and you'll get situated on the map here, the canvas. I'm gonna get rid of this dialog. So now we want to get a label on there. We want to put Tom's Farm on there. We don't have that as in the attribute table, so we can't label it automatically. So what we're going to do is go back to the attribute table. We're going to open up editing. We're going to add a name. We're going to call it name. The type of data will be text string, and I'm going to just go ahead and put 50 in here just so I have enough enough lines and spaces so that I can put in whatever I want to. So now we can put in here, we can put Tom's farm, and this building we'll call barn. And so now we have the ability to put these labels onto our polygons. But first we're going to want to save, and we're going to click out of that, and then we're going to double click on here. Double click gets us to the layer properties again. Layer properties, now we'll go to the labels. No labels, single labels. Single labels, there's also rule-based labeling, but we won't go into that right now. We are going to go into expression. So area is one of the expression, or the one field, and then we also want, here's the two fields, area and name. We want the name, and then we also want the field, or we want the name and the area. So how do we get these together? We're going to concatenate. I can never pronounce that. Concatenation. We're going to concatenate these together, and this will show us, right? You can see down here, it's barn 055. That's an example of what we're getting here. So what we want is, we want a space in there. You can't have a space in there. Let's see. Yes, you can't have a space in there. We will need to put a space in here. So what that did is added a string in between the two concatenations with a space. There's an easier way to do that, but that works fine. And also we'll want acres in there as well. So that will give us the name and the acres. But what we really want is the acres to be on a different level, the next level down, right? So how do we do that? We put in another concatenation, a new line, and there we go. That is how that goes. So that's good. And then we go back to the text, and we don't like MS shell dig. We want, let's say, what do we have here? We'll go with that, and then we'll give it 14 point, apply. Okay, so now you can see these two polygons are labeled, and it's not too complicated. Maybe we want the polygons to be more obvious. So let's go back into the layer properties and change the symbology just a bit. We'll add a gradient brown, a gradient blue, gradient green fill. And what we want to do is make it more transparent. So we take the opacity down to 60, apply that, and then you can see a little bit more where the property is. Maybe we want to change then the outside stroke color to black, and maybe make it a little bit more thick. So we apply that, and then this is what you get. So that's a very basic, simple way to get started with your base map for your ecological design, for your permaculture design, for mapping ecological areas, or what have you. And now you definitely want to make sure that everything is saved, and that you save to your project, to your file, and all your files are there, and everything looks great. Yeah, that's about it for that. any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. But otherwise, this is the majority of what you need to do. One thing you might want to do is right click on Tom's farm. So if you're making it permanent, you can choose the various types of formats, but you can choose KML as well. You can export as KML as well, and put it somewhere, put it in your folder, and you can use that KML file to open up into your Google Earth Pro, and utilize Google Earth Pro's tools and their updated imagery, and sometimes they have the 3D as well, but it should all be in the right spot and ready for you to go and do some work. So thanks for watching. Please give me a like if it's helped you out at all, and I'll be doing a lot more tutorials as we go along here. Thanks.